And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, elephants, zebras, gypsies, and the she. First, excuse me. First, Cat, how are you? Are you in hospital? Are you in the hospital right now, or are you? What's going on? I'd like to know. Worried about you. I'd like to know what's going on. Okay, the rest of this video, you have to excuse me. The hair is starting to come back on my face, and it's itching. Plus, this is not the most comfortable thing, so it itches anyway. Okay, so we're going to deal with linguistics in this video. Okay, I'm from Spain. That's where I'm from. My native language is Spanish. I spoke Spanish to one degree or another till I was a teenager, till I was like 14. And I remember the day I was told not to speak Spanish anymore. And I still don't appreciate it, but I can't change the past. While I was in the rehab hospital, one of the ladies that worked there was from Germany. Not the same part of Germany that I lived in, but she was from Germany, and I just instinctively said "Danke," thank you. So now I'm going to quickly go through the languages that I've, let's say, been introduced to in my lifetime, because there's a big difference between an introduction to a language and actually speaking the language. So I've been introduced to a number of languages. Let's see if I can start from the beginning. Spanish. Now, I will not speak American Spanish. Okay, I have a thing about it, and that's just my thing. If I'm going to speak Spanish, it's going to be continental Spanish. But I'm not going to do that. I looked up on the internet the top 4 or 5 languages other than English spoken in New Hampshire, and German was number 4 or 5. Although you have to understand that in New Hampshire, to have 2% of the population speak a language other than English, that's a pretty big deal. Now, you can go to Texas, for example, and you can find a much, much larger percentage of people that speak Spanish. You also find a very large percentage of people who speak or who are bilingual. Now, my father was multilingual. My mother was at least bilingual. She may have spoken more than Spanish and English. I don't know how much German she may have spoken. So anyway, so my native language is Spanish. Next would have been German and Serbo-Croatian. I never spoke Serbo-Croatian as far as I'm aware. My friend, his parents were from Yugoslavia, so they spoke Serbo-Croatian. His mom never learned to speak anything but Serbo-Croatian. And then, of course, English and Ryukyu. I don't know if I'd call it Ryukyu or if I'd call it Okinawan. And it's not exactly the same as Japanese, although I find the differences intriguing, especially since I think it's written the same way or pronounced very similar, but they're 2 different languages. And I just don't think I'm going to find many people up here who speak Okinawan. I mean, I might find 1 or 2 people that speak Japanese, but finding somebody that speaks Okinawan up here would be very difficult to do. So, and then to go further, in college I took ASL, American Sign Language, 4 semesters of it. Did good in it too, except for my last semester. But I still know my manual alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R. So, I'm not going to go through the whole alphabet. So, Now, here are some of the reasons I've chosen German to be my new second language. One, there are people in this area that actually speak German, although I've only found one person so far, and that person isn't exactly that close to us. And I think it would be a bit rude to take my wife. If you can't see, I'm pointing to my wife in the other room. It would be rude for me to say, bring somebody into the house or in any environment, and for me and that person, or me and those people, to speak one language when my wife doesn't know that language. You understand what I'm saying, people? So, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I have this radio right here. I can practice German with people on the other side of the world with that radio. My best friend Steffi, he spoke German and Serbo-Croatian. I don't know what else he spoke, but he passed away when he was like 6 years old, 6 or 7, and he had a heart condition. And anyway, so I happen to enjoy German language movies, okay? And no, they're not all horror movies. There's one movie called Amy and Jaguar, which I have watched I don't know how many times. And I have the book, but I haven't read the book. Now I have the book, but if I'm going to learn German, then I'm going to want to buy that book in German, or as a dual language book. I don't really need it as a dual language book. I can buy it in German. And since I already have an English language translation of it, I can just put them side by side. The movie Amy and Jaguar, I forget the actress's name. One of the actresses in the movie, the one that played Amy, the one that played the more femme, more submissive of the two women, she's also in a movie that I happen to like. I think it's called Downfall. Is it The Bunker, or is it called Downfall? I think it's called Downfall. I've not found any mention of her in English language movies, or any mention of her in, say, an episode of an English language TV show. But like I said, I think she's a good actress. There are two German language movies right there that I happen to enjoy, Amy and Jaguar and Downfall. I think it's called Downfall. It could be something different. The odd thing is the actress, both of those movies are World War II era movies, or they're World War II, they're movies that take place during World War II. Now I have seen on the TV 2 Japanese movies that were made during the war, which is interesting because most of what I got growing up, what little Japanese I did watch some Japanese TV and movies. I definitely did that. But a lot of the movies from the Japanese perspective about the war were post-war movies. We were not introduced to movies made before or during the war. So, the movies I watched, I didn't understand enough to be able to stick with it. So I didn't finish watching the movies, but they were good movies. I enjoyed what I did watch. But, see, if you notice, I'm having to push my arm to get back there to scratch. But, there's also a couple of other German language movies that I like. One is called Berlin Dead, and here in New Hampshire we have a town or a city called Berlin. They pronounce it Berlin. Now I don't remember, I was too young, I don't remember if Berlin, Germany is pronounced Berlin, which is how I always pronounced it, or something akin to that, or Berlin, like they say here. back in Texas, in Tejas, there was a town called Fredericksburg. When I lived there were still people that only spoke German. Not many of them. Not many at all, but there were people. You would come across them from time to time. And they only spoke German. Sprechen Sie Deutsch, ja? Nein, sprechen Sie Deutsch. I still know a couple of cuss words. I won't share those with you. But then there's also a German movie called Dead Snow, and it's a zombie movie. I saw it once. I wasn't that thrilled by it, although Berlin Dead is also a zombie movie, but it's a much better movie. There's another movie, I don't remember if it's German or not. It's possible I watched a dubbed, can't stand dubbed movies. If I'm going to watch a foreign language film and I don't speak the language, which I don't anymore, I want subtitles, and I want it to be accurate, okay? I will see things in Spanish, or I will hear something in Spanish, and I know enough to know that it's not being translated properly. Not all the time. I'd say it's uncommon for me to be able to do that, but it does happen. So maybe I should learn Spanish again, but I'm not going to. I'm going to learn German. So this goes back to what I talked about before my surgery. Okay, I ordered glasses, so they're already paid for. I just have to wait for them to become available. I'm going to pay my debts down. Now, I don't have the money to pay all my debts yet. One thing that I've realized is that just, look, things happen in life, and we have little or no control of some things. So, next month, I have to pay the principal on the title loan on the car. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to have to do it, or we're going to lose the car. That's like $500 plus. So believe me, we're never doing that again. But anyway, once that's paid for, because I won't have any money for anything until that is paid for. Once that's paid for, I can start on my debts. I haven't received a bill yet from the hospital, but I know I will. Well, actually, I haven't received a bill from Mount Ascutney, and I have not received a bill from the hospital in Lebanon. But I'm sure I will. I'm going to go to the credit union, start paying that back. And look, if I can only afford to pay back $20 or $25 at a time, that may not be much, but it's something. It's being paid on. We now have a large jar to put our daily change in. It's a much larger jar than what I was going to use, because I was just going to use a mason jar, but this is like a gallon plus size jar. My wife found it, and she said, "You know what we're using this for?" And I'm like, "I agree with you. That's a good idea." So we're going to be using it for that. Let's see. So I'll pay my uncle back. Again, it's not going to be a lot of money at once, and I couldn't pay him anything this month. I'm not going to be able to pay him anything next month. But after that, I will be able to start paying people. One thing I would like for Christmas is a flintlock long gun. Let's say flintlock long gun. Because I would really prefer a .62 caliber smoothbore flintlock. That is my dream. but I don't have that kind of money. And this thing over here, this kit, I am fed up with it. So these are incense that you see. I don't smoke, so if you see the smoke, it's incense smoke. So what I'll probably do is get a 50 caliber flintlock rifle, not as a kit, but already put together. It won't be the greatest thing in the world, but it'll work. I can finally get out there in the woods. The store here in town that we like to shop at, that we don't get to go to we go more often than we buy. Okay, because it's always something interesting. You know what we saw in there? My wife would have loved it. She wanted it, actually. I'm surprised she didn't get it. But, you know, we have bills to pay, and that's what, you know, she and I have been putting our money towards, is our bills. They had a spinning wheel, less than $90. They had a, how do you say, treadle power sewing machine. I don't remember how much that was. Those two things and the snowshoes. Those three things. I wanted all three of those. Snowshoes, the treadle sewing machine, and the spinning wheel. I don't know how much she would use the sewing machine. It had all the little pieces and stuff to it too. So it had its own, you know, the cabinet and the drawers had all the pieces. It was really cool. It did need the belt put back on, but that would probably be easy enough to do. But you know, we can't afford that kind of stuff. And you know, buying, it's like earlier this year I wanted to buy a kayak, just a cheap Walmart kayak. Well, my wife said, you know what, Seamus, you know what you should probably do? You probably shouldn't get it right now. You should probably wait till after the surgery and see how you do, because it's possible that you're not going to want one after the fact. You know, and she's right. Maybe I won't. I mean, I'm still healing. This is not something that heals overnight, and I need to stop saying because I don't live in Canada. Okay, so my dad was Canadian, and I picked it up when I was there, So, do I need to keep saying, hey, what are you doing, Oh, okay, Hey, I think I can make fun of Canadians because my dad was Canadian, and so are my cousins and my aunties. They're Canadians, So I'm sort of like half Canadian. No, I've never lived there, but I've been there. Love to go back. Love to take my wife up there and introduce her to my family. Want to introduce her to my family in this country too. So anyway, so another reason to speak German. One of my aunties, her husband was German, and when we lived in Germany, in Deutschland, we lived in Hanau, Deutschland. I don't know if that's the proper way you say it in German or not, but we went and visited family. And I don't know what part of Germany, and we have, I don't know if they're photographs or slides, but where the family member lived, they were still, I mean, you have to understand, this is only like 25 years after the war. Okinawa was covered with bombs, landmines, hand grenades, corpses, bones anyway, and so was Germany. I mean, if you think about how these two countries were just blown to smithereens, it was, you know, when we lived there, you could just go out in the woods and find stuff. I mean, I'm talking about Germany, actually Okinawa, you could do the same thing. But when we lived in Okinawa, I was too scared to do it because I was so young, you know, and you didn't just pick stuff up because there could be a snake. You didn't just pick stuff up because it could be a booby trap. on Okinawa, was it really that bad? And yes and no. A lot of it would depend on where you were. A lot of it was just being cautious and nothing more. Because it did happen. People were killed. I mean, I knew people that were killed. And so it wasn't always a pretty picture. Considering where I would tromp through the forest, it was bamboo. It wasn't what we would call a forest over here, but it is a forest. Well, actually, bamboo's a grass. So would it really be a forest? Well, I tell you what, the bamboo grew really tall. As I was a little kid, maybe it wasn't as tall as I thought it was. But anyway, so I have family in Germany by marriage. I assume they're German. I don't know. But where we lived in Germany, a lot of the rubble was out of the way and stuff like that. Not everywhere. I mean, because Hanau was hit the last days of the war. For those who don't know Hanau, think of the Grimm's fairy tales. The Grimm family, the Grimm brothers, they were from Hanau. Sadly, most of the city was destroyed. Where we lived were old German army barracks. So those were new, relatively speaking. I don't know, but I think something like 75-80% of the city was bombed by the Americans in just like the last day or two of the war, which kind of seems ridiculous in my opinion, but and Frankfurt wasn't that far away. I mean, what were they going to do? Put all those bombs back on the ships and ship them back to the States? But then again, just bombing indiscriminately is really stupid. And I know the war had to be won, but I read, this is going to date me, and I voted for this guy once. What was his name? George McGovern. Yes, I once voted for George McGovern, believe it or not, in the primaries, not in the actual election. He was a bomber pilot during the war, and he talked about how once they had a new guy on the ship, and they still had live ammo, and supposedly they weren't supposed to land with it. So the guy said, "Hey, I found a place we can drop our bombs." So he turns around, McGovern and whoever else on the flight deck turned the aircraft around, and McGovern said he looked back to see where the bombs were going, and this idiot had them drop them on a farmhouse and barn. And you just don't do that. You just don't. I mean, I can understand. I can't understand because I've never been in war. I hope I never am. So I can't understand. But there's a lot of destruction, and I wonder how much of it was totally unnecessary. The last day or two of the war, and they bomb it, and then the Americans move in by land the next day. But I wasn't there. I don't know what the situation was. But still. So I figure I also enjoy German World War II history. So it would be nice to be able to read some of these things in German, especially since some books that I wish I could get, I can get them, but I can't get them in English. I have to get them in German. Hannah Arendt. No, not Hannah Arendt. Oh goodness, I can't remember her name now. But she's not the only one that has said it. But prior to the war, in my generation, at least for me, when I talk about the war, I'm talking about World War II. My father, my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, my father and his dad were both in World War II. my other grandfather was in the First World War. So Cat, there you got some family history there. Anyway, I don't even know what I was going to say, but when I say the war, I'm talking about World War II. But you also have to listen to what I'm saying. If I talk about the war, and let's say I'm talking about the war with the American bombers flying over, that's probably Vietnam, because I wasn't alive in World War II. So there were no bombers flying over my head during World War II. Maybe over my dad's head and my granddad's head, but not over my mom's head that I could think of. I don't know why they would have. They didn't live where, as far as I know, there were no military facilities out there. But anyway, so World War II German history. The fact that there are at least a few German speakers in the area. The fact that I enjoy German movies, from the better put together films like Downfall and Amy and Jaguar. Although it would be nice to see that actress in a movie where she's not a lesbian and she's not a Nazi. Basically a movie that has nothing to do with World War II, because that gets old really fast. But and if I learn enough, maybe one day I can go back to Germany. I can find Steffi's grave and I can actually read his tombstone. But anyway, so German is going to be my language of choice. Of course, this has to come off. I have to get the eyeglasses before I can really do much of anything. Once the title loan is paid for on the car, I'll start paying my debts back. There's actually a debt that I owe Southwestern Community Services. I can start paying on that. And I owe the credit union, and I'm going to get bills from the hospitals. So, insofar as having a plan as to who I'm going to pay, that's in place. But I've also allowed myself the opportunity for change, because in the past, especially when I was younger, if things didn't go exactly the right way, I would get all frustrated and I would just throw my hands up and I wouldn't get anything done. I can't do that. Well, I can do that, but I choose not to do that. So once I have the money, I'm going to start paying my uncle, the credit union, both hospitals, Southwestern. I'm going to start paying these people back. Now, is it going to help my credit? I don't know, because I owe so much money. But it doesn't matter if it's, well, it would be nice if it helped my credit, but that's not why I'm paying it back. I am paying it back because I owe people money, and not to do so would be theft. I would be stealing from these people. The doctor did great work. He gave me my left leg back, which is an amazing thing in my book. I haven't been able to use it for so many years. He deserves to get paid for what he did. Even if he didn't give me my leg back, he deserves. Well, I'm going to end this because my computer is telling me I need space. So have a great day. Bye.